So what I'm going to do is a very high-level summary of the survey findings. Of course, we want to get the survey online. We didn't print because we're trying to move to be more green. So we don't want to really be printing a lot of papers. So the first highlight of the survey is that it actually has the highest response rate since the initial rollout of the survey in 2018. I think we began with 6,000 responses in 2018, then came to 11,000, 15,000, 29,000, and now 33,000. So as Dr. Olaka said, I think it's a very good sample for us to get detailed insights from the banking public on the services. Then the other highlight is in terms of the distribution. Previous surveys have had a skewed response to Nairobi and Nakuru, but this year we've had the survey covering roughly all the counties in the country. So I think that also makes the data very representative. In terms of age, I think here we've seen that the bulk of the respondents are actually young people between 26 and 35 years. Maybe you don't know, partly the reason could be because the survey is deployed online and maybe young people are the ones who are active online, but this is an area that requires further research to see why most of the respondents are actually within that age bracket. Then the other aspect we are highlighting is on multi-banking. I think since the inaugural survey in 2018, we've seen a sustained tendency of multi-banking where customers have multiple relations with banks. As you can see from that graph there, the proportion of customers who have only one bank account is just 1%. And then the larger proportion of more than two bank accounts is actually a larger proportion. I think the highlight from that slide is that our customers don't have single banking relationships. It's a very densely multi-banked population, and I think this aligns very well with the 2021 FinAccess survey, which was released by FSD Kenya. The other highlight that we've seen is in terms of the digital, tendencies. So this slide is really highlighting the aspect of channels, which we need to distinguish very well from the customer service. So there are two elements. The first element is on preference for channel, where somebody will go to transact, and then the other element regards customer service. So the slide you're looking at is analyzing the proportion of customers in terms of their preference of the channels they would like to transact on. And as you can see there, we've had mobile banking. Last year we had 40%. So I think we've had a very wide leap in terms of the proportion of customers who like to transact on digital platforms. We've also seen a growth. Actually, last year we had branch visits at 11%. And then we've had a jump to 17%, which indicates more customers are actually visiting branches to access services. In terms of customer service, this is actually where the story is we have been seeing over the years customers preferring to use technology, chatbots and so on to access customer support services. So in the 2022 survey, we see customers now moving towards preferring to interact with a human being when they are accessing customer services. So I think it also highlights the fact that customers, the relationship aspect of banking has come back. This trend actually we're seeing here resonates well with the 2018 survey, which was released in 2019, which was at 16% as well at this time. So we saw a spike when COVID-19 came into the scene. People were preferring to use digital platforms to address customer service needs. And now it looks like we are going back to the base, because the base here we can talk about before COVID is 2018, which now there's some kind of normalization after the pandemic and the reopening of the economy. I think Dr. Olaka alluded to this aspect here. Maybe because of the wide reach of the survey in 2022, the proportion of persons with disability also increased from the survey. But I think the concern we saw here is that while the industry has done very well in terms of facilitating access to banking services, the challenge that remains is in terms of having independent access. Because we had a proportion of 6.5 who said, although they are able to access the services, they are not able to access them independently. They require a third party to be involved to be able to support them to access the services. In terms of complaints resolution, we have those a good proportion on, actually this question, I think Joyce maybe will speak about it later. It's based on the banking sector charter in terms of the expectations of the industry from that point of view. But I think the rate we put in the survey is a bit ambitious. We want to go beyond the expectations of the charter. But then we have 68% of the population say that actually banks always respond to their complaints. So we have 23.5% of the respondents in 2022 compared to 20% in 2021. I think there's an indication that sometimes there's a small percentage that indicates we need to really enhance the response rates, so that we have a bigger proportion of customers, affirming that they actually receive support within the set period. This is a new aspect that was introduced in 2022 survey. I think this slide will be more useful to the customer service teams. They are the experts. There is the NPS score. So here we have the industry score of promoters is at 58.8%. So the proportion of detractors is 16.7, and then passive or indifferent is 27.5%. So that's the high-level summary of the report.